Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to episode 263 of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast, brought to you by, of course, JaysFromTheCouch.com. We're so glad you're tuning in for another week of Blue Jays talk. We've got a fiery episode, and I cannot wait to get to it. But please bear with me while I go through the opening spiel, as it were. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter to our live stream. We really appreciate that. It feels good to know that there are people watching us while we do this. If you have a question or an opinion to drop in, this might be the episode to do it. And you can always do that. We'll put your comments and your questions directly up on the screen, and it'll be a lot of fun. So if you're watching live, don't be shy. Say hi. And if you're not watching live, it's okay. You can catch the next ones and tune in then and do the same thing. Or you can catch the audio version on Apple, Google, Spotify, everywhere you find quality podcasts, you'll find Jays from the Couch. And I am your host, as always, Sean Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at Doyle JFtC. Listen, I'm not joking. We have got a great episode for you this week. We are going to fireworks. One of us may not make it out alive. This is going to be an episode where we discuss whether or not the Toronto Blue Jays are actually sellers at this point, buyers, somewhere in between, whatever it is. It's going to be lit, as the kids say. Or maybe they don't even say that anymore. Who knows? Anyway, to help me, because I need it, we've got Jays from the Couch, contributor and host of the On Feck Circle every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the Feckless Wonder, Steve Feck. Good evening to you, sir.
Hey, Sean. You all ready?
Am I ready? Well, yes. Are you?
In fact, the US of J's analytics team even worked all through the weekend, and we have a new analytic that we're going to unveil during the show at some point. But
excellent. You might need it. And it's a good thing that Steve is joining us all the way from his home in Pittsburgh in the safety of his own home, because joining us from Toronto, Karen Sutar, host of Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Good evening, Karen.
Hi, Sean.
We've got a few hundred miles between the two of you, so this should be it's a good thing.
It's the first time I'm actually happy the border is closed and that Karen can't come across the border to get me.
Well, she may still make it.
Well, I'll be in Buffalo next week, so it'll be closer for her. So
there you go. There you go.
I wish I was.
So like I said, we've got a great episode, 263rd episode of our podcast, and we've got an excellent topic. I think one that'll lead to some interesting opinions, some varying opinions, but nonetheless, always, just like what everybody comes to expect from JaysFromTheCouch.com, always good discussion. And there are not two better people I would love to have on for this discussion than you two. So thank you so much.
But you say that now, but thank you.
Yeah, well, because
I can't promise. Yeah.
One of us, like I said, one of us may not make it out alive. However, so this all came up because Jim Scott, writer at JaysFromTheCouch.com, and I'm going to say it right now, ballsy, very gutsy move to write a post about whether or not the Blue Jays might be sellers, and if they are, what that would look like. So for those of you listening at home, head to Jays from the Couch, check it out. It's a very good piece. And at the time, we kind of batted around that idea, I suppose the weighing in. Everybody at Jays from the Couch had an opinion on it, much like everything else in this world, right? Everybody's got an opinion, and some of them don't always agree. So I'm going to lay the groundwork, kind of let our listeners kind of get an idea about the context for this, and then really I'm just going to toss the grenade and run, because I feel like that may be where we're going. But so at the time, the Blue Jays were 8 games out of first place, and about 17 other teams in the American League ahead of them for the wild card. I joke, of course. I joke. It's about 5, if I remember correctly. Regardless, they were a ways out with a lot of traffic ahead of them, and it's like they were stuck on the Don Mills Parkway or something. But see, that was a nice Toronto reference from a Nova Scotia guy, right? You know. Anyway,
I think you meant the Don Valley Parkway, but
what did I say?
Don Mills.
Yeah, I'm the worst. Yeah. See, I thought it was a great reference, and then I just totally blew it. So we're off to a great start already. Anyway, thank you, Karen. I apologize. You're going to be correcting me all night, probably. So, anyway,
Correcting the teacher.
Oh, well, listen, it's just what I do in the daytime. It's just a place I go. They pay me. It's, it's title only. Anyway, so a lot of teams ahead of them for that wild card spot. 8 games out of first place in the division, with New York and Boston and Tampa Bay all ahead of them. And, of course, other teams in the American League kind of playing better, or at least getting the better results, which is maybe something that we can kind of dive into here. Anyway, so Jim asked a very good question, right? Is it time to start thinking about this? Whether or not the Blue Jays are sellers, and whether or not they will be come the trade deadline, because, of course, here we are, we're at the end of June now, and there's about 4 or 5 weeks-ish left before the trade deadline. Lots can still happen, but because of what's ahead of them, the question was asked, and I don't know that it's a bad question to ask. I think it's a legit fair question, because when you look around baseball, and we've talked on this show a number of times, we've talked about there are teams who are out of it, who could be sellers, and that would be where the Blue Jays should look. And so I went around and I looked around the league, and all of those teams were about where the Blue Jays were with regard to how many games out of first place and the wild card and so on. And so if you categorize them as sellers, then it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to consider the Blue Jays as sellers, in particular because the Blue Jays play in the American League East. So this is where we are, and this is what we're doing here. We're going to decide, maybe, I don't know that we'll ever come to a conclusion here tonight, but are they or are they not in a position to be sellers now and heading into the trade deadline? So, Karen, I'm going to let you lead us off here. I'm going to let you be our Marcus Simeon and lead us off, because I think I've kind of led the path, and I'd like you to kind of counter that, if you will.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, we all know that the Jays lost 5 in a row there, and yes, the wheels could fall off, and it's possible that come late July, they're just going to be so far back that they don't really have much of a choice. I don't think that's going to happen, and at the very least, it's way too early to be going down that path. They still have 90-plus games left to play, and they have games against a lot of the teams that they're trying to catch. I mean, I said it last week on Sunny Side of the Dome. What if it's late July, and they're in 4th place, and they're 8 games out of first? Would it be time to pack it in then? And for anyone who says yes, I'm glad you weren't the Jays general manager in 2015, because Alex Anthopoulos did not give up on that group. And this, I mean, even it's not just me. Shai Davidi, a few days ago, he was on the pregame show, and he was comparing the 2021 Blue Jays to the 2015 Blue Jays before the deadline deals. And he made the analogy that, it's like a mansion with a leaky basement. Well, you fix that basement and you've got a mansion. And these guys, I mean, they've got the 4th best run differential in the American League. So, I mean, this team is a lot better than they've been, than their win-loss record makes them look like. They need a better bullpen. That's been their problem. Like, how many games have they been leading going later into the game that the bullpen has just coughed up lately because the wheels have fallen off? They were great in April, and they're part of the reason why they were competitive at all in April, and just the wheels have fallen off, and they need to plug those holes, and there's answers out there. And I mean, Ross Atkins made the point that they're out there, they're looking for relief pitching, and what's available right now is likely not as good as what's going to be available in around a month from now. And that's what I've been saying. Clubs that are out of it, they don't want to pull the plug just yet. And Sean, when you talked about teams that are right around where the Blue Jays are, I mean, I'm looking at teams that are really out of it, that are already double digits behind anything. Teams like the Orioles and the Diamondbacks and the Rockies and the Detroit Tigers. And I mean, I looked around both leagues, and there's already about 8 of them. They're not going anywhere this year, barring a miracle. So there's upgrades to be had. I mean, they're already trying what they can in signing John Axford and trading for someone from the Mets who was good earlier this year and fit right in with the Jays bullpen. But no, I mean, there's better deals to be had, and they'll make them.
Right.
It's just a question of time.
And you know, that we've seen other teams like the Rays pull off a deal and improve their bullpen and so on. I think when you look at what Toronto has done and pulling a guy who was, you know, an analyst not too long ago and trying to hope that he is somewhat of an answer. I mean, yeah, Axford, I hope he is the John Axford of old. And I hope he can still pump it up to 95. But you know, like, those aren't the kind of moves that are going to lead to a winner, right? Am I, or maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead, Karen.
No, something, but when you're talking about that, something just occurs to me. I mean, apparently, so Axford played for Team Canada in the Olympic qualifying or something like that, and they were saying that he was throwing in the high 90s. What if he has a few bullets left and not a lot? What if it's enough to get them between now and the end of July?
Right.
When there's enough other guys available that they can go out and get that can take them to the finish line.
Yep, and that's entirely possible. You know, I don't think John Axford is the answer to the bullpen, and I don't think anybody does, including Ross Atkins. But those are the kind of moves we're seeing right now, right? And those aren't exactly earth-shattering moves. But I think it's time. He's been sitting ever so quietly and patiently, waiting for his turn. So, Steve, Karen has a good point that the Blue Jays' run differential is better than their record would indicate. And therefore, you would expect, and I'm going to throw an X at you, but you would expect their record to be better, which means you would expect their playoff position to be better at this time. So I guess, Steve, the question is, what do you say to that when you look at whether or not this team are sellers?
Well, first of all, I want to touch on, I'm glad Karen brought up 2015 because that was the last time John Axford was an effective back of the bullpen arm in the major leagues. But the run differential, yeah, that's great. They have lost almost 2/3 of their one-run games. That tells you all you need to know about whether the Blue Jays can stay in a race all the way through. When you're losing one-run games at that kind of a rate, you are not going to stay in the race. Okay, and it's fine to say, oh, it's, expected record, Pythagorean record, whatever it is. I'm going to reveal the new analytic that we came up with, and hopefully you can read it on the screen. It's XDA, expected, dumb, unexplainable hypotheses. You cannot say that the Blue Jays are going to do something. You're not going to say that Atkins could do something. You just do it, and you just win. If you are behind 5 teams or 4 teams or 3 teams, it doesn't matter. You're behind those teams. So don't tell me what could happen. You got to start winning ball games, especially close ball games.
Okay. And I'm kind of glad we did bring up the 2015 thing, because I got to say, I've heard that. And, you mentioned other teams. You can mention other teams in recent memory. You think back to the Colorado Rockies with Matt Holliday, the St. Louis Cardinals, who were like a 500 team and ended up winning the World Series. You know what I mean? Like you can bring up those, but when you look at how many teams have been in the Blue Jays position and have gone on to the postseason and done well in the postseason, that number is heavily weighted to the I don't want to failure side, for lack of a better term. And at the time in 2015, the Blue Jays, I think, were a game under 500 and 8 games back. We don't have Alex Anthopoulos in the Blue Jays front office right now. And that's 2015 Alex Anthopoulos, because I don't believe even 2021 Alex Anthopoulos is the same as 2015. I don't believe that either. But the Blue Jays, Ross Atkins and company, are not in a position that they're going to go crazy like Alex Anthopoulos did. And it was fun as you know what.
Why are they not in a position?
Because they won't. But you know what? Like, I don't know. Like, you can't be. I don't believe that they're quote unquote scared. But
Terrence had just exploded for those of you that are listening to the podcast. I'm not watching the video.
This episode brought to you by Bounty, the quicker picker upper.
Yes.
But Ross Atkins and company, they're just not going to do, because let's be real here. The whole reason why Alex Anthopoulos left was because Mark Shapiro didn't approve of the methodology of 2015, where you go all in and you empty the cupboards, right? So there's no way, right or wrong, there is no way Ross Atkins is going to pull a 2015 Anthopoulos.
And how many pennants or even division championships did the Indians under Mark Shapiro win? I believe 1.
Like I said, right or wrong, that's just not how they do business.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at my calendar. It's 2021. It's not 2015. It's not 2018. It's not the Miracle Mets of '69. It's not the first baseball team I covered back in 1914, the Miracle Boston Braves, who were in last place on 4th of July and won 78% of the games down the road. It's 2021. It's a different landscape. There are general managers out there that are already making moves. You cannot draw the parallel. Who did the Blue Jays? Well, forget the Blue Jays. Okay, who did the Rockies really have in that division outside of the Dodgers? Nobody. Padres were rebuilding. Giants were in the midst of tearing everything down. The Diamondbacks were bad. Okay, I mean, you can't compare seasons. The Blue Jays had their chance. They had teams on the ropes, but rather than go for the jugular, Ross just sat there and said, the process, and pushed the button for Charlie Montoya. It's the process. We know what we're doing. It'll work out just fine. It's okay. Sorry. And this is really what started on my end about coming up with the whole, well, it happened this year, that year. It's a totally different landscape. That's why expected anything is duh. Okay. You can't expect anything. You've got to do it on the field. The Blue Jays are not doing it. And Lord knows Ross Atkins is not doing anything. They're squandering an MVP season from Vladdy Guerrero. There are so many great seasons happening right now, and they're squandering it because Ross Atkins wants to follow the process. And they want to see what the landscape's going to be at the trading deadline. So that they have now sprayed away. I didn't want to say the word that I wanted to say. 2 months of the season where they could have caught up and they wouldn't be behind teams, and they just sat on their behinds and just said, oh, it'll be fine. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
So hold on. Are you suggesting then that the Blue Jays are the equivalent of the Angels, who have wasted year after year of Mike Trout?
Yes, but at least the Angels made moves. They were dumbos, but at least they did something. They weren't signing Jeremy Beasley and the fossil remains of John Axford. They were going out and getting real players.
So you would rather the Blue Jays make dumb moves?
Do something. Do something. Yes. You had a unique opportunity coming out of a pandemic. You had the financial muscle that you could have done besides signing Springer and besides signing Simeon. Okay. Who, when we get back to the seller discussion, that's a guy you sell. You can sell him high right now, and hopefully they do that. But you know what? It's Ross Atkins, so they won't. Because then he has to admit, well, I probably shouldn't have signed this guy because we really weren't the team that we thought I was because I didn't get pitching.
Okay, so Karen, I'm going to allow you the opportunity to allow you, like you need my permission, but I am going to give you the opportunity to respond because I'm not totally on Team Feck here, but you go right ahead.
I mean, I don't even know where to start with that. The Blue Jays in 2020, it's just, as is often the case, Steve is on this extreme and I'm on that extreme. And what do I even address first? They're not wasting anything. The 2021 Toronto Blue Jays are going to make moves to upgrade the bullpen, and they are going to be a wild card team this year. I believe that. I mean, they didn't go out and spend $150 million on George Springer to not compete. They didn't spend $80 million a year ago on Ryu to not compete, and $18 million on Simeon just for 1 year, who's having a fantastic season. They brought back Robbie Ray. They traded for Steven Matz. It's like they fixed both those guys, and even Ross Stripling. He was a mess coming over from the Dodgers, and they've been reclaimed, whether it's something they did or Pete Walker or something there. I mean, they've assembled a really talented core, and they need to start locking down these games that they're giving away in the bullpen. It's not too late. It's going to happen.
And I think too, something to like hang your hat on is that if the bullpen really is the glaring need, and Ross Atkins says it is. I mean, so he's not completely a rodeo clown in that sense, but bullpen pieces really are the quote unquote cheapest way to improve your team, right? You're not going to have to give up as much as you would for a starting pitcher or an elite third baseman, let's say. Bullpen pieces, relatively speaking, are cheap, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're not trading for an all-star caliber closer, like for example, when the Jays did it in reverse and they had Joe Smith in 2017, who was having a fantastic season, they traded him to Cleveland and they got two prospects, neither of whom were in the Cleveland's top 30. So, and I mean, one of them is not even, Thomas Pannone is not even with the Jays organization anymore. Samad Taylor is still in the Jays minor league system. He's having a terrific season. So maybe he is someone now, because he's not necessarily part of the major league future of the Jays. Maybe this is someone that they could trade away for bullpen help, or somebody like Kevin Smith, who's having a comeback season, or I mean, there's all kinds of pieces that they've got down there, quality prospects, having good seasons that the Jays can do without because of the MLB team that they've assembled. So
right,
the makings are there, and they're going to pull the trigger. You'll see. I mean, for a general manager, Steve, that you have so little respect for as a general manager, you can't possibly think that he possesses a magic wand, that he's just going to go out there and say, okay, I want this guy, this guy, this guy, Alakazam, make it happen. You've got to wait.
He doesn't possess.
You've got to wait until the other teams are ready to trade those guys away. And it's coming. It's just not yet.
Does Eric Neander wait? Does Dave Dombrowski wait? I mean, we're looking, since we're talking about past history and track records, does Brian Cashman wait? He only waits when he knows his team's out of it, like the Yankees are now. Okay, does the Astros GM wait? No, they don't wait. You go out and you make the moves. I don't think Ross Atkins should ever have been named the GM. Okay, they should have gone to Cherington. But, again, you have the bond back in Cleveland where Ross was the minor league director under Shapiro. So I can understand why you went there. But, I don't think Ross Atkins is a major league GM. He's a major league front office guy. He did an awesome job helping to assemble this minor league system and rebuild it real quickly on the fly. He is not a major league GM that can make the moves you need to make in order to be a playoff/championship team. They'll be an above 500 team. So for the next 5 years of his contract, we'll be above 500. That's great. That's great. I feel like I'm back in the 90s or the 80s.
So Matt, watching it at home on YouTube or wherever he is, I don't claim to know where you are, Matt. I'm not stalking you or anything, but Matt's chiming in on Ross. Ross made an awful plan for pitching this season, and we all knew it. He also can't make a move right now to fix it, so we have to wait. Now that's interesting because, and one of the things that I was going to bring up is that the Blue Jays had a plan, right? Let me rephrase.
Napoleon had a plan.
Okay.
How'd that work out for him?
The Blue Jays had a lot of depth. That was the one thing that they kind of came into this season kind of patting themselves on the back about, was that they had a lot of depth. And you couldn't argue with it because no games had started. Now here we are, and that depth has been tested like anything we've ever seen, right? Like that depth has been put to the test, and the injury after injury after injury after injury, it only gets you so far. And, I read this today, another quote from Atkins is that, we still need pitching depth. Great. Okay. You can't plan. It's not like you can keep a stable of 400 pitchers. You know what I mean? Like that you can just call upon. It doesn't work like that. And so while sure, the results in the win-loss column and the standings, speak for themselves, I don't know that Ross Atkins and company entered this season in a poor position. I don't know that any of us can.
Matt had it dead on. There's depth and there's quality depth. Okay, the Pacific Ocean is deep, is the deepest ocean, but the richest ocean is the Atlantic Ocean. And it's deep, but there's much better quality of fish than you have in the deep Pacific Ocean.
Well, coming from Nova Scotia, I can't really argue that point. So
I'm trying to suck up the best I can here because I'm getting my butt kicked here in this argument. So,
but this is so okay. Whether or not they can or can't, Steve, you brought up, you just do it. But that means if you just do it, you pull a Nike and you just go and get whatever you think you need, you're gonna overpay. And that is a reality that I don't know that this front office, again, right or wrong, I don't know that this front office, that's not a reality they're willing to accept.
Well, then why do you accumulate prospects then? If you're not building width and depth in your farm system, are you going to bring them all up? Is a new CBA, are we going to have like a 98-man roster now that I didn't read about anywhere? No, there's only so many people you can bring up at any given time. The whole point of putting those pieces in place is to use them when you're ready to be competitive. And the Blue Jays, I think everybody was saying, this is the Blue Jays are going to be competitive all year. Well, if that's the case, we knew we needed bullpen help back in the middle of May. Okay. And it's now the end of June. You don't wait till July 30th, or I guess July 30th. I don't want to give them an extra day of help there. You don't wait that long. And I'm really glad that Ross has came out and spoke this week because he's already laying the groundwork for what he's not going to do and not get accomplished.
Okay, so while we're having this debate, Karen, I'm going to throw this to you. I'm going to use my son, who's now, he'll be turning 15 in August. I know, you would never guess looking at me. But he turns 15 this summer. Anyway, we took a trip down to Disney World. And for years, he'd been saving up to go on this trip, right? The child had money. Let's be real here. He had a lot of money. But because he loved that money and he worked so hard to get that money, by the end of the trip, he still had well over half of that money left because he didn't spend it. So, and then of course he's kicking himself for not getting a lightsaber or whatever the heck it was. Anyway, someday I'll tell you about the stories from Disney. It was actually pretty cool. But regardless, Karen, the question is now, are the Blue Jays going to end up like my son in that they waited too long, they coveted what they worked so hard to get for too long, and then are going to be kicking themselves on August 1st?
Honestly, I don't think so. And I mean, I look at it, so there's the types of trades that they made just last year. So they were going for it. They were trying to at least get into the playoffs. I don't think that they went all in. 2015 was going all in. 2020 was going for it without overpaying. And I am all for overpaying for what looks like it could be a final piece to a championship season. And I look back actually not that long ago of the last, I don't know how many World Series champions, and I think they all did it at some point, that they all overpaid for someone that was a rental, but it was worth it to them because it helped get them over the top and got them their championship. If I legitimately believed that the 2021 Toronto Blue Jays were a World Series championship team and they were one or two pieces away, I'd say, yeah, go for it. Overpay, do whatever you have to get what you have to get. I think they're going to, I still think they're going to go for it a lot like they did last year, and maybe a little bit more so, depending on who they can get, who's available, and if there's team control beyond this year. Because if there's team control beyond this year, I'd be willing to give up that much more. It's not worth emptying the farm in a year that a lot would have to go right for them to win it all, because then what have you got? I mean, there are some people who I follow on Twitter who want the Jays to trade for Chris Bryant, and let's pretend the Cubs weren't in first place because they weren't expected to be, and who knows if they will be by the end of the season or even the deadline or whatever. But there are still people who would love for the Jays to trade for Chris Bryant, and I keep trying to tell them, from what I hear, the Cubs, if they were going to give up Bryant, they wanted a king's ransom for him. Now, if the Jays were a good third baseman away from winning it all, it would be worth it. I don't think they are. And why give up the kind of talent that it would take to get him into a Jays uniform when he's eligible for free agency at the end of this year? So I hope that answers your question. I want them to go for it, but they've got to save the big bullets to either help them in the future or trade for someone who will help them in the future, because there's a championship there in the future. I just don't think we're going to see it this year.
Right. And before I throw it to Steve, all I'll say is that could have been avoided by perhaps dealing for Chris Bryant in the winter as opposed to the trade deadline. But either way, Karen, your point is well made, that you're gonna, if you want a top level target, that, let's say you're even in the position to win a World Series that will put you over the top, you're gonna have to pay through the teeth for it, and the Blue Jays just aren't there. But I'll throw it to Steve now.
Sorry.
They don't have to empty the gun and use all the ammunition. Load the gun, Ross. Put some bullets in there at least. Okay, I'm sorry, he's not doing his job. We're not saying they're going to be a World Series team this year, but they could advance and build on what they had. They have a lot of amazing things going right. I mean, I'm the biggest critic of the Marcus Semien signing because the ripple down effect is going to hurt the organization with Biggio having all the problems. He couldn't play third base and all the other things going on, but he's had a fantastic year. At least put bullets in the gun. Ross Atkins has gun up on it's he has gun racks all around his office. That's a very pretty gun. This really looks nice. And he's great with the photo ops, those Zoom meetings. That's great. He looks terrific. He looks terrific in the Zoom meetings. Do something. Have a Zoom meeting and say, we have acquired this piece or that piece. We have solved the problem at third base. We have solved the problem in the bullpen. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Just do it. Nobody wants to hear about the labor pains. They want to see the baby. Okay, that's why Blue Jay fans are now grasping at straws, asking to trade for Chris Bryant, which all three of us will agree is a really bad idea now. And it wasn't even that great of an idea in the offseason. But at least, you would have had a third baseman. You wouldn't have had all this thing going on. I'm sorry. I mean, I think really that as a rule, Blue Jay fans are looking for excuses. Okay. They're looking for extra to explain what happened this year and the missed opportunities. I'm sorry. Right. The bullpen was great in April, but we know because they didn't address the starting pitching that bullpen was going to wear down. And we've been saying that all year. They cannot overuse the bullpen that they did. Did they run into injuries? Yes. Blue Jays have lost more man games from their pitchers than any other team except the Tampa Bay. Well, no, I think they actually have lost more man games now than the Tampa Bay Rays. But where are the Tampa Bay Rays? They're in first place.
Not anymore.
Nope. Boston Red Sox. And don't get him started on that, Karen.
Tampa Bay's lost like 6 in a row. But speaking of third base, do we think there's anything to be read into Gabriel Moreno playing a game at third base?
Yeah, Ross Atkins is a bigger dope than we really think that he is already.
Well, Moreno was a shortstop, and the Blue Jays made him a catcher. And so I don't know that there's much to be read in it, unless they really believe his bat is for real. And if they do, in Double-A, believe his bat is better than, well, Santiago Espinal at the big league level, then maybe there is something to be read into that. But I don't know. Remember when they were making Devin Travis play center field? You know what I mean? Like there were some experiments.
I wonder, and I wish Ryan Muller was watching this so he could chip in here. Are they not seeing what they want to see out of Austin Martin or Groshans as a potential third base? What they're seeing on the field? Again, I haven't been able to see a whole lot of minor league games. I was planning to go see a bunch of games in Buffalo for the AAA Bisons, but now they're in Trenton. So, so I have to battle with Yankee fans to get Blue Jay tickets in Buffalo. So, and so, I mean, that's the only thing I'm thinking. Are they seeing that these guys are not going to be ready anytime soon? So Moreno, because he was an infielder originally and his bat has been pretty amazing so far at Double-A, like Kirk's was in the lower minors. So you can draw that comparison. He hit pretty well, so I'm wondering if that's what really forced that move, trying to see if he can readjust there to see if indeed that he could be an answer at third base next year so they don't have to spend free agent dollars there.
Right.
And I mean, we'll see. Martin had a 5-hit game the other day, but I've heard less than wonderful things about his throwing arm. So
right.
If we have concerns about Biggio as a third baseman in that way, Martin might not be that much better. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of him play, just some video here and there, but
either way, it'll be fascinating how the next month of the season plays out, because I could see a gamut of possibilities happening for this team from, almost 2015 like to the complete opposite. And I wouldn't be surprised either way. And maybe that's why, tonight was a good episode for me to host, because I am kind of in the middle. I can see it all happening. Do I want it all to happen? No, obviously not. But I can see possibilities. I can see realities where, things play out in either direction. But regardless, I think that you two were the perfect people to have on, because you are so the ends of the extreme, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so I guess what I'm trying to say in my long roundabout way is I thank you both for coming on and representing both of those points of view, because I really believe that Blue Jays fandom is down the middle. You've got lots of people on one side, lots of people on the other side, and somewhere somebody's going to be right. But I appreciate both of you coming on this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, us.
It's always fun.
So if that's, well, I guess that's the end of episode 263. So Steve, let everybody know how they can follow you and all that fun stuff.
You can follow me on Twitter at US of Jays. I purposely have stayed off Twitter because I didn't want my head to explode, so I've been kind of away from that. There is no on-fec circle this coming week, but if all the dominoes fall into place, the on-fec circle on the 29th will be from Salem Field in Buffalo. That's my goal. I don't know what I mean. There's some things that I'm involved with here in Pittsburgh that may keep me from not going to Buffalo. So I'll be selling the tickets on the black market the best I can. But my goal is to actually have the on-fec circle actually from Salem Field.
Awesome. So tune in next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You may see the Feckless Wonder being tossed out of Salem Field. So, you never know. You never know.
Heckling Montoya and Atkins, yes.
He'll be the one wearing a rodeo clown outfit.
Yes.
Karen, let everybody know how they can follow you.
Yes, I'm on Twitter at Karen Sutar1. That's SOUTAR1. And I'm on Twitter an awful lot. So you can find me there. We can chat about baseball, about other things. Mutual respect is important. And I have my own show as well, Thursdays, Sunny Side of the Dome at 6 p.m. And I've usually got a positive spin on most things when they're not in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. But thank goodness that's done.
It is a must watch and listen. Okay,
I mean, when it's difficult, yeah. Karen.
I mean, right. If you're a Blue Jay fan, Karen's show is the kind of show that you need after my shows on Tuesday. Okay, so make sure that now. Luckily, you're going to have a bit of a span. So Karen's show Thursday, you're going to be feeling great before I ruin your parade on the 29th.
And I'm going to give the last word to one of our viewers on Facebook here in a second. Just going to remind everybody to head to jaysfromthecouch.com for all your Blue Jays stuff. Make sure you tune in on Monday evenings at 6 p.m. for our live broadcast of the podcast. Make sure you catch both of these shows and, of course, the audio version of our podcast on everywhere you find a podcast. So I'm going to give the last word to Bobby watching on Facebook, because really it's just about sums it all up. Go Jays, go. Regardless of what side of the fence you're on, we all root for the same team, and that is just great. So for Steve, for Karen, for Bobby, who's super happy, by the way, to have been given the time here on Facebook. We love you, Bobby. Thanks for tuning in and commenting. So for all of us, this is Sean Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at Doyle JFtC. Hoping life gives you a juicy fastball down the middle and you don't miss it. Take care.